Hi guys, so today I just have the video for the illustration that I promised in my last video, and that is a nice complete illustration with a very strong environment. This is something that I'm really excited about getting more into. I mean, environments and drawing backgrounds, those are things that as I was growing up and building my artistic skills, that was something that just wasn't interesting to me at all. It was always the characters. I just was interested in drawing people. And usually they ended up just kind of floating in a void where it's just, they had no place or function outside of just looking cool. And that's something that I'm ashamed to say took me a long time to get over and to realize that there's a lot more to this wonderful world of drawing than just people. And I know that in my last illustrations I may not have shown that as much, but I'm definitely trying to bring environments in a lot more and let the background tell a story and let this rich world come through as opposed to just not being there, I guess. Yeah, and background, I feel like in every video I'm always like, and this thing I need to work on so bad, and this thing, it's one of my weakest points. And it's true though, there's so many things that I really need to get better at. Backgrounds and environments, that is up there. It's something that as I was growing up, it did not even occur to me that that might be interesting. I was completely involved in wanting to create interesting characters. I just wanted to draw people and a background. I mean, for my younger self, it just seemed like such a waste. So I would always draw these people just floating in these voids, and they just serve no purpose except for to kind of look cool, but ultimately they're kind of pointless and void of any personality or interest. And that's what, ashamedly, it took me way too long to realize, is that the environment and the background is a whole nother character in your piece. That's one of those huge elements that is telling the story and giving the reader, not the reader, the viewer information. And this is really something that I've really been trying to kind of kindle my passion in, I guess you could say. I really love having pieces that are rich in stories. It's something that I didn't always really realize I wanted, but lately I've been really realizing that I want my pieces to have these stories behind them, these mysteries and things that just get the imagination going and get people thinking and wondering what's happening or what the story is behind my pieces. And so that's something that I'm really excited about continuing to figure out, and these new stories that I want to tell, and who knows, I'm just gonna keep working on that and we'll see where it leads. I know that eventually I would really like to get into doing graphic novels. I think that type of art is amazing, to tell these stories and have characters come to life in that way that is just a whole nother level outside of just illustration. So I'm pretty excited about that. I have a few story ideas in the works, but we can get to that later in future videos. When I first started this piece, I had planned on doing much more of this structured temple in the background. I wanted it to look ancient, like it hadn't been touched in thousands of years. And at the beginning, you may remember I had some red perspective lines there so that I could get the perspective right. But as I was working on it, it took a very different turn. There's like no need for perspective lines at all anymore, because it's all just this forest. It's all curved lines and no perspective, which, you know, I had intended on using this piece as some perspective practice because I really need it. And it's one of those things, if you don't practice, at least for me, I forget how to do it, which sounds silly. But if I go too long without practicing it, I don't really remember how to set it up and it confuses my brain. So it got a little bit in a different direction than I was planning, but I still really like it. I always love drawing plants. Plants are really fun to draw, but that's not the point. The point is that I do need to do more perspective practice after this one. It's reminding me how much I keep like shying away from it, and that is something that I need to not do. I need to face my fears head on, including perspective. Although, you know, perspective is actually extremely fun when when I remember all the rules at least, and I've set it up correctly from the beginning. I did take a creative perspective class a couple semesters ago, and it was so much fun. We just learned so much new stuff, and it made so much sense. Suddenly everything clicked. Like, all the stuff that I learned about perspective before, it never really made sense, and then I took this class and it was like, oh, that's what that means. Suddenly the world makes sense. I understand now. But unfortunately, it's been so long that I don't remember like anything that I learned. So I wish that I could just be in that class for forever, but I can't. So I'm just gonna have to practice on my own, which is hard. But it was really, really fun. There's just something incredibly satisfying about knowing how perspective works and being able to do a piece and just kind of figure it out like a puzzle, my professor used to say, where it's just like you just have to figure out the way that it works and figure out each thing and measure and get it all right, and then when you do, it looks right and realistic, and that just is an amazing feeling when you look at it and you know it's right. Or even when there's something that's just wrong and you can't figure it out and it's not right, and then you finally figure that one little thing out, and just it was a line that was just not following perspective right or whatever, and then you fix it, and then suddenly it all comes together. And that is what I live for, is when you find the problem for your piece, and then everything is just amazing and it all works and you love it after that. That is the best feeling in the world. I love it. But yeah, a little bit about the actual piece. But a little bit about the piece, and not just what I should be doing, but what I actually did do. And what I did do was really struggle with the colors on this piece, which I feel is like the trend for all of my pieces ever, is that I fight with the colors. I know that most people, the coloring process is what they're super excited about, and it's what they live for and they love doing it. For me, my process, I guess, or whatever, myself, it fights with me, and I have to struggle with it for hours until I get it right, and then I can finally move on, and then it's just a huge relief that I finally got it to the point that I wanted it to be, and that is what this piece was. And by the time I got done with figuring out the colors and looking at it, it was like, this is so obvious, this is what I was trying to get all along. Why was it so hard? But it is. It's one of my curses in life, I guess, is inability to get the correct colors right off the bat. But yeah, and then I could finally move on to the parts that I love, which is adding the highlights. And we are finally to the finished version. I ended up speeding this video up quite a bit more than my other ones because I wanted to do the whole picture in one video this time around, at least. But in the end, the whole drawing process ended up taking like 7 hours, so yeah, that's pretty much my typical time for ones like this, where it's very heavily line arted and all that jazz. And I really enjoyed it this time. It was very pleasant to have a change of pace, so I think that I'll definitely be doing more environment pieces from now on. They're really fun, and there's just something about how you don't really have to get it right like you do a face or a body. You know, trees can grow weird ways. That's all I'm saying. And that's pretty much it. So don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all my future videos, and I will have another one later this week. Until then, I will see you at my next video. Bye.